Hi guys, this is Anton Developer, and today you're going to learn how to place an object on a plane and set up occlusion using Unity ARfoundation. So first, we're going to create a project. I'm going to name this AR Plane Occlusion. Next, I'm going to go to Window, Package Manager, and I'm going to look for ARfoundation. I'm going to select the version 3.13 and then I'm going to click Install. After the package was installed, I'm going to look for AR Core. I'm going to select the version 3.1.3 and then I'm going to click Install. Then, once this is done, I'm going to look for ARKit and I'm going to select version 3.13 and click Install. I'm going to select the main camera in the hierarchy. I'm going to do a right click and then I'm going to delete it because we don't need it. I'm going to do a right click on my hierarchy. I'm going to go to XR and I'm going to add AR session origin. And I'm going to add an AR session. Now I'm going to create the folders that I need for organizations. On my assets, I'm going to do right click, create folder. I am going to name this folder scripts. I am going to create another folder and this is going to be my prefabs folder. The next folder that I'm going to create, it's going to be my res folder. After that one, I'm going to create my materials folder. Next, I'm going to create a shaders folder. Now, I'm going to create an animations folder. And finally, I'm going to create a 3D models folder. Now, I'm going to use the assets that we're going to be using, and you will find the link to them in the description. I am going to select my plane occlusion shader and my feather plane shader, and I'm going to drag and drop it into the shaders folder. Now, I'm going to select my soccer ball and I'm going to drag and drop it into my 3D models folder. Next, I'm going to select my button, my plane pattern dot, my soccer ball texture, and I'm going to drag and drop it into the rest folders. I am going to select my AR feather plane fade controller and I'm going to drag and drop it into my animations folder. Finally, I'm going to select my AR feather plane mesh visualizer and my fade plane on boundary change scripts and I'm going to drag and drop it into my scripts folder. Click on the materials folder and then we're going to create a new material. Do right click, create material, and I'm going to name this plane matte. Now we're going to create our occlusion material. Do right click, create material, and I'm going to name this occlusion matte. With your occlusion matte selected, go to your inspector, click in shader, select AR, and click occlusion. Next, we're going to select our plane matte, go to your inspector, click shader, look for unlit, and then click feather plane shader. Now, let's go to our rest folder, let's select our plane pattern, and let's drag and drop it into the texture in the inspector. Now, we're going to change the tiling values in X and Y to number 2 and number 2. Click in the texture tint color, and then we're going to change the alpha to 178. Next, click in the plane color, and we're going to change the alpha to 0. Now, we're going to create our plane prefab, go to the hierarchy, right click, create empty. And I'm going to name this AR feather plane fade. Click add component, search for AR plane. Next, click add component. Look for AR plane mesh visualizer script. And then click add component, look for mesh render. Then we're gonna drag and drop our plane matte into our mesh render in the material sections where it says element 0. I am going to click add component and I'm gonna search for animator. Go to your animations folder, Select your AR Feather Plane Fade animator controller and drag and drop it into the animator controller. Next, click Add Component and search for AR Feather Plane Mesh Visualizer. Click Add Component again and look for Fade Plane on Boundary Change. Now, click Add Component and add a Mesh Collider. And finally, we're going to click Add Component and we're going to add a Mesh Filter. Now select your prefabs folder and drag and drop your AR Feather Plane Fade from the hierarchy. Let's go to our hierarchy and delete our AR Feather Plane Fade game object because we don't need it there anymore. Now select AR Session Origin in the hierarchy and click Add Component and search for AR Plane Manager. Click Add Component and we're going to search for AR Raycast Manager. Now select your AR Feather Plane Fade prefab and drag and drop it into the AR Plane Manager Plane Prefab. Go to your scripts folder and then I'm going to do right click, create C# script, and I'm going to name this script Place Object on Plane. I'm going to open the script. First, I'm going to add using Unity ARfoundation. Next, I'm going to do using Unity ARSubsystems. And then I'm going to do using Unity EventSystems. I'm going to delete the start method because I'm not going to use it. I'm going to declare a variable AR Plane Manager named Plane Manager. And then I'm going to do a private AR Raycast Manager, Raycast Manager. Next, I'm going to declare a private list AR Raycast hit named S_hits, and it's going to be equal new list AR Raycast hit. Now I'm going to declare my public game object place prefab. I'm going to declare my method awake, and then I'm going to do Raycast Manager equals get component AR Raycast Manager. Then I'm going to do Plane Manager equals get component AR Plane Manager. After that, I'm going to declare my private void place object. I'm going to do touch equals input.getTouch0. Then I'm going to declare an if conditional and I'm going to pass Raycast Manager.Raycast. And to that I'm going to pass the touch.position. I'm going to pass the AR Raycast hit list and then our trackable type dot plane within polygon. I'm going to do hit pose equal s_hits position 0 dot pose. And then I'm going to instantiate my place prefab in the hit pose dot position and the hit pose dot rotation. Since I'm gonna set the plane occlusion with the button, I need to check if I'm pressing a button or not to instantiate an object, because if I'm pressing a button, I don't want to instantiate an object. I am going to declare a private bool isPointer over UI object. I'm going to write pointer event data current position equals new pointer event data event system dot current. Next, we're gonna add event data current position dot position equals new vector 2. We're gonna do input dot get touch 0 dot position dot x and input dot get touch 0 dot position dot y. I'm gonna declare a list type raycast result name results, and it's gonna be equal new list raycast results. We're gonna add event system dot current dot raycast all, and we're gonna pass our event data current position and our results. And finally, we're gonna return results.count greater than 0. Greater than 0, it means that we're touching a button or any other UI object. Now, let's go to our update method, and I'm gonna add an if conditional. If input.touchCount greater than 0, I'm gonna place my object. On my place object method, I'm gonna add another conditional. I'm gonna do if touch.face equals touchFace.begin and the pointer is not on our UI object, then I'm gonna instantiate my object. So I'm just gonna select the whole if block below it, and I'm gonna cut and paste it inside. In our hierarchy, we're gonna select our AR session origin. From our scripts folder, we're gonna select place object on plain script, and we're gonna drag and drop it into inspector. I'm going to select my 3D models folder, and I'm gonna drag and drop the soccer ball into that scene. Next, I'm gonna go to my materials folder. I'm gonna do right click, create, materials, and I'm gonna name this soccer ball matte. Select the rest folder and drag and drop the soccer ball texture into the albedo. Now go to a materials folder and drag and drop the soccer ball matte into our soccer ball. Select the prefabs folder, and from the hierarchy, we're gonna grab our soccer ball, we're gonna drop it into our prefabs. We're gonna click original prefab. Let's delete the soccer ball from the hierarchy because we don't need it there anymore. Select the AR session origin and let's drag our soccer ball prefab into the place object on plane place prefab. Next, I'm gonna go to my scripts folder. I'm gonna do right click, create, C# script, and I'm gonna name this plane setup manager. I'm gonna add using Unity engine.xr.ARfoundation, and then I'm gonna get rid of the start method and the update method. I'm going to declare a public airplane manager, plane manager. Then I'm gonna declare a public material occlusion matte and plane matte because I want to switch between materials. I'm gonna declare my public game object plane prefab because I want to change its material while it's scanning. I'm going to declare my public void set occlusion material. I'm going to write plain prefab dot get component render dot material equal occlusion material. So I want to change the material of the plain prefab because I don't want to be scanning using the plain material if we are in occlusion mode. Then I'm gonna get each plane that we already scanned by doing for each bar plane in plane manager.trackables, and I'm gonna change each plane material by doing plane.getComponent render.material. I'm gonna set my occlusion material. I'm gonna copy and paste the method, and I'm gonna change its name to setPlaneMaterial, and the occlusion material I'm gonna switch it for PlaneMat and PlaneMat. Now on my hierarchy, I'm gonna do a right click, create empty, and I'm gonna name this Plane Setup Manager. I'm gonna drag and drop my script, Plane Setup Manager, and then I'm gonna add my reference. I'm gonna select my ARStation origin and I'm gonna drag it in the Plane Manager. Then I'm gonna go to my materials folder and I'm gonna drag the plane mat and the occlusion mat. Finally, I'm gonna go to my prefabs folder and I'm gonna drag and drop the ARFair plane prefab into the plane prefab in the Plane Setup Manager. Now I'm gonna add the buttons that are gonna set the occlusion and the planes. In your hierarchy, do right click, UI, button. I'm gonna switch the platform to iOS so I can see my layout where my button is gonna be placed. I'm gonna change that width to 500 and the height to 100. I'm gonna place my button at the bottom of the screen, and then I'm gonna go to my hierarchy and I'm gonna duplicate it. I'm gonna select a button and I'm gonna name it Set Occlusion Button. Next, I'm gonna select my other button and I'm gonna name it Set Plane Button. I'm gonna go to my res folder, I'm gonna select my button, and then I'm gonna change the texture type to Sprite 2D UI, and then at the bottom I'm gonna click Apply. Now select the button and drag and drop the texture into the image, source image. And let's do the same for the other button. I'm gonna change the text, I'm gonna change the color to white. Let's see how it looks. No, it doesn't look really good. I'm just gonna change it back to black because it looks better. I'm gonna change the text to set occlusion. I'm gonna change the size to 24. And then my other button is gonna be set planes. And I'm gonna change the size to 24. Now select the button, click the plus, and let's drag and drop our Plane Setup Manager. I'm gonna click in Now Function, Plane Setup Manager, and I'm gonna click Set Occlusion Material. Next, select the Set Plane button, click plus, drag and drop the Plane Setup Manager, function, Plane Setup Manager, Set Plane Material. That's it, let's save, file, save, File, Build Settings, add Open Scenes, and now I'm just gonna set up for iOS. Click on Player Settings, then on iOS, go to Requires ARKit, check the box, select the target minimum iOS to 11.0. The architecture is going to be ARM64. And I'm just going to change the company name. I'm just going to write Anton Lodash Developer. Now for Android, let's remove multi-threaded rendering. First, let's remove Vulkan from the graphics APIs and then uncheck multi-threading heading. Now on the minimum API level, select Android 7 Nougat API level 24. And that's the setup. Now go File, Build Settings, and Build. Let's see. So we can walk around. We can see our plain material. It's on the table, on the floor, on the chair. And if we tap, we place our soccer ball. And you can see there's no occlusion to the table. And when I set occlusion, if I go on top of the table, you don't see the ball anymore. So I can set my planes again, and you can see the planes. So there you go, guys. You have set up the occlusion planes. If you learned something, please like and subscribe. And you should check out my apps. See you next time.